Lindsay's with us. Lindsay's in Sheridan, Wyoming. Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
Great, thanks. How are you? Thanks for taking my call today.
Sure. What's up?
So I was just calling. My husband and I are currently making 529 contributions for our daughter and nieces and nephews, and it kind of came up in discussion. What do we do? We want to be able to gift them all equally, but, what would be your recommendations or thoughts on, if one of them went to a trade school or something that doesn't cost quite as much? We're kind of thinking, what would we be able to do to help them all equally if they don't choose the same path in life, if that makes sense?
If you had the same amount of money in there, what wouldn't it be unequal?
Well, my thought was, if one of them went to a trade school that only cost $20,000, but
they would have the money left over in there. They'd have the money left over, wouldn't they?
They would, but if it can't be used for an educational purpose, if they're done with their education, my thought was, do you have an idea, like if we wanted to perhaps help with like a down payment on a house, do you think it's wise to invest it all in a 529 or go other routes so we have more than one option?
Well, most people do not get enough into their 529 to pay for college.
Okay.
And so most of the time, this is a theoretical discussion. So most of the time, the answer is put all you can in the 529 because it's still not going to be enough, even for trade school. Now, if you're way, way, way ahead of the curve and you've done a great job and you're worried about having $200,000 in a 529 and then they go do something for $60,000 at a trade school, that's a valid concern then. And if you're really looking at those actual numbers and that's actually occurring today, then you say, okay, I'm going to split it off. I'm just going to put some in a mutual fund in that kid's name. And I'm the custodian.
Okay. That's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, and that's a custodian
because
account.
Are you at that point?
But I'm not doing that if you have $5,000 in your 529, you're putting $50 a month in there. I'm not doing that.
I bet you don't, Lindsay, though, because you're talking about a down payment even. Are you guys...
How much is in the 529 today?
They're all like 1 and 2 years old.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about it today.
I don't. It just came up in discussion, and we thought, well, should we go this route? Or
yes, you should go this route. You should go this route until you have enough in the 529 that it starts to be an issue. And so if you get up to 100 or something in a 529, after that you can start talking about putting some of it somewhere else. If you think that kid might be a trade school kid instead of a 4-year kid, and by the way, either one's fine with me. I'm great with that. So, but don't split it off today and $50 here, $50 there. That'll drive you nuts.
Yeah.
And you're missing out on all the tax benefits.
Yeah.
Because it's going to grow tax free in that 529. So the college world is a changing.
It's changing. We were talking about that during the break. I know. And there's a lot of, I've heard, I think probably more in the last 2 years and even more so since the pandemic and everything and how much online has gone and everything. It's crazy that people really are kind of questioning, okay, what's education going to look like in 20 years, right? She said that those kids or the accounts are 1 or 2 years old, but if you have littles, and Winston and I, we're still funding kids' college, we're still doing it. But I think it is an interesting conversation, though, of what education could look like in 20 years. But you were saying at the break, you were like, yeah, but higher education's not going away. You're still going to be using those funds, but I don't know.
No, are people going to there's two things that have happened that have jarred everybody out of their zombie-like sense about education. And one is this student loan debacle, epic failure of the student loan system. And one of the results of that huge mess is that higher education has shot through the roof in cost.
Yeah.
So it's so stinking expensive that it's making everybody go, this is just stupid. And then the second thing that's happened is pandemic. Now they're still trying to charge for all that.
Online.
And you can't go back and you socially distance, and so there's 4 people in the class or some kind of crap. And they're going, that's not exactly the college experience, in air quotes, I had in mind. And so they're going, no, I'm not paying full price for, online. If I'm going to do online, I'm going to jump on somewhere and take a $29 course. Screw this. Mm-hmm. And so that has changed the consumer's mindset of education. Those two things have given, really given higher ed 2 black eyes right now.
Yeah, and I know we don't have a crystal ball. You don't have a crystal ball. But seriously, though, what do you think if you were to predict in 10 years? Literally the online stuff has just shaken everyone to their core because people are, I mean, everything, like the things you thought were never going to happen happened during the pandemic, and people are so comfortable with the internet. I mean, even Ramsey Plus, right? We were able to launch what was a standard class for so long online, and it's amazing. So like things are changing so quickly in that regard. I mean, you don't have a crystal ball, so it's unfair to even ask, but I don't know. I'm just curious your thoughts on what education could look like, especially higher education where you're paying I think $40,000 a semester, a year at these private schools that aren't even meeting now. Like, it's wild.
Obviously, if they don't start meeting, nobody's going. I mean, they're going to lose all their customers, and so it's like if churches don't start meeting again, then there's going to be a fallout there in this country that's going to be unbelievable, and so if people don't get past the fear on these things and start coming back together, then and I didn't think it would take as long as it's taken. I thought it'd be back to normal by now. So what the crap do I know? So I don't know anything. But I do think higher ed, for the first time, people are stepping back and giving it a really hard look.
Yeah.
And not to say that it's invalid, because I really do not think higher ed is invalid. I really think it's valid. I would want all of my 6 grandbabies today to get a 4-year degree. That would be my goal as their Papa Dave. Am I going to be mad at them if they go get a VOTEC degree? No, I'm not going to be mad at them. But I think there is a benefit to a 4-year education. I still believe that. Now, how we go about doing it, 18 years from today for little Charles,
right?
There may be a whole different way of doing
17, he's almost a year.
Okay, 17
ticking
years
away.
from now. He could do it in 16 because he's so smart. So
That's right.
we don't know.
10 months. Genius.